good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us tonight. We're really excited to be here. My name is Joe Deskovich. I'm the regional sales manager at Signature Premier Properties. My piece of our presentation tonight will be really short. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the market, a little bit about our company, and really what's happening on Long Island. Does everybody live on Long Island, or we have people in Queens too, in the city? Queens in the city also. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Queens market. The one thing that I always say is every single market is a little bit different. So what's happening in Long Island is a little bit different than what's happening in Queens. We'll talk about that for just a little bit. But with us today, Bruce Silva. Bruce is the originating branch manager for CrossCountry Home Loans and is a wealth of information. Every time that I get a chance to do a seminar like this, whether it be in my company or whatnot, I always ask Bruce from the mortgage side of the industry, which is the most important piece of what's happening right now to be here. So Bruce, thank you. And Bruce is going to, really carry the majority of the presentation. And Bobby Feigenbaum is also here with us today. Bobby and I have worked together for many years. I was writing a little bit of a script before I came here just to say, I've been in this business for 21 years now. Bruce has been doing this for how long, Bruce? 36 years, and Bobby has been doing this for 36 years. So we have a tremendous amount of knowledge that we hope we can share with you a little bit tonight. So I'm just going to get started. You guys have any questions about anything, just stop me, okay? This is a map of the Signature offices that we have currently operational. We're primarily a Long Island-based company. We just did open an office not too long ago in Sarasota, Florida. We're also opening an office in Delray Beach. And today, about 3 or 4 hours ago, we just announced that we acquired another brokerage in Hampton Bays. So our footprint on Long Island is tremendous. Some of our statistics from 2022 finished the year off. We were 23 offices. As a company combined, we closed about 5,700 sales. Our average days on the market from listing to closing was about 46 days, right? We put about 5,300 properties under contract during the year. Our company ranks as the _1 company for fewest days on the market in the entire MLS system, which covers Long Island and all the way upstate. So from a homeowner standpoint that's thinking about selling, we do a great job not only with the listing side of it, but on the sales side also. We were the #1 company for closed sales in Suffolk last year, and the #2 company in all of New York State for closed sales. We closed $3.6 billion last year in real estate. So great company with right now, that was about 1,625 agents. We're now closer to about 1,700 agents. And we've been around for about 13 years now. So new companies still growing and still, making things happen. This little pie chart here, about 1 out of every 3 of our listings is also sold by a Signature agent. So we have great agents to help you out if you wanted to list your house, but also if you wanted to purchase a house as well, we've got you covered all the way. That little triangle that you just see over there is just our breakdown of business. We closed over 450 sales last year at $1 million, and we closed 570 sales up to about 350. So we cover the spectrum. If you're a first-time buyer looking for a co-op, $100,000 co-op, we can help you out. If you're looking to buy a $5 million beachfront house someplace, we can help you out with that as well too. Some of the accolades that we've received for the last 7 years or 6 years, we've been voted the best real estate company on Long Island by Bethpage Federal Credit Union. On the right-hand side, we speak over 25 different languages in the company. So if there's anybody who likes to converse in a native language or whatnot, we've got you covered. We can definitely help you out with that. So this is just some numbers. Part of my job in the company is I do a lot of numbers and education for the agents on what's happening in the market. This slide that you see here is taken from the National Association of Realtors, and it's the most updated information that they have, good through January of 2023. So when I do my presentations in the office, I start like kind of big picture, what's happening across the country. And I just think it's a good level set so you guys get an idea what's happening nationally, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's happening here locally. So across the country, total existing home sales, which is single-family homes, co-ops, and condos, fell a little less than 1% from December of 2022, right? Seasonally adjusted rate of about 4 million. The median existing home sale price, again, across the country, increased 1.3% compared to January of 2022. So what's happening? You'll see stories about prices, and one of the things that I say is, if you turned on your cable news channel tonight and it was a Fox station or MSNBC or CNN and there was a real estate story, it's national, right? Our sellers and you guys as buyers, you care about what's happening locally, right? But prices across the country are still, you'll see in some areas that they're going down. Still here on Long Island, we're not seeing that. So prices are still appreciating on Long Island, 5, 6, 7% compared to last year at the same time. Properties across the country remained on the market for about 33 days in January. That number was 19 days in January of last year. So if you guys are looking to buy, the most important piece that I can say to you guys is talk to somebody like Bruce and get your talk to Bruce and get your finances and everything squared away, because the competition in our market right now is ridiculous. It's still very, very strong. Okay. 54% of homes that were sold in January were on the market for less than a month. Right. So less than a month, more than half the properties that were sold in January, less than a month. Now, we all know that things have changed. You read stories in the market. That number was 88% in June, 81% in August, and 70% in September. So back in June and all, it was so difficult to get a home. Like a property came on the market within 2 or 3 days, there were multiple offers on it. Things have calmed down a little bit, although just talking to an agent in my office today, a $525,000 house in East Northport had 26 offers on it this weekend. So there's still lines out the door, and it's all related to inventory, which we're going to talk about. All cash sale, okay, first-time buyers, right? So 31% of all sales in January were for first-time buyers. So anybody first-time buyer looking to buy here, you're in good company. That number is actually up from January of last year, which is interesting as rates have kind of gone up, that number has also gone up for the first-time buyers. Cash sales, 29% of all transactions in January were cash sales. So unless everybody's sitting on a big pile of cash, it's really super important to work with Bruce and to talk about the programs that he has that's going to make your offer stand out when you're competing with cash offers. Investors and second-time home buyers, about 16% of all purchasers were investors or second-time home buyers. And for those of you that are thinking, I'm going to wait for this market to crash and I'm going to buy a short sale, the stretch sales, short sales, and foreclosures, less than 1% of all sales. And that less than 1% number has been steady for about 2 years now. So the foreclosure boom that we had back in 2006 and 2007 and 2008, that's not happening right now. So when you hear stories about distressed properties and things of that nature, that's not what's happening. Certainly not here on Long Island. You can see what the number looks like across the country. So this is why we have a problem. This is why we're 25 offers on a specific property and you see lines out the door at open houses. This is just a really kind of rough look at a bar graph going all the way back to January of 2019. And what's highlighted in green is January of 19, January of 20, January of 21, January of 22, and January of 23. And these numbers that you see up here is the month supply of inventory. Month supply. How many months would it take if not another new property came on the market? How many months would it take to be completely exhausted of inventory? Right? So if we look all the way here on the right, this is January of 23. Again, national numbers, 2.9 months supply of inventory. If we look back to January of 22, 1.6 months supply. So when you see stories or you're hearing stories or you're reading stories about inventory levels are going up across the country, yeah, it's true. But what's happening in our market where we live, right? So these are the numbers for us, Nassau, Suffolk, and Queens. Nassau County, there's about a 2.7 month supply of inventory in January. Last year, it was 3 months. In Suffolk, 2.5 month supply. January of 22 was 2.8. And in Queens, 5.6 month supply. So you're seeing that these numbers are actually going down. So on Long Island here, our numbers are not increasing. The month supply of inventory is not increasing. It's going the other way. All right. Abnormal, balanced, and healthy market, there's about a 5 to 6 month supply of inventory. Anything less, it's a seller's market. Anything higher than that, it's a buyer's market. It's just supply and demand economics, right? And this is why we're in this problem. This takes a look. This is a graph from a company that I use that does a lot of statistical information. So this is the reason why we're in the problem right now with respect to inventory across the country and why it's so low. In the decade of the 1930s to 39, there were 5.4 million homes that were built across the entire United States. And you can see the blue bars, the decades going through, right? And then you get to 2010 to 2019, right? So back over here in this 2000, 2009, when we had 27 million homes built across the country, we had a market that was crashing. 2007, 2008, we had a lot of things that were happening, and a lot of builders got stuck with inventory. What am I going to do with these houses? Banks weren't loaning people money anymore, right? Projects weren't taking place. So in this decade here, we had 5.8 million homes. We have to go all the way back to the 30s where there were fewer homes being built. And what's happening across the country? More households being formed, more people coming into the country, right? You have big corporations that are buying blocks of homes and selling them, right? So right now we're in this predicament because we're having this issue of this lack of new construction through that whole decade. And this is one of the reasons why, again, prices have gone up. It's supply and demand driven principles. And here's the last thing that I have for you. You guys all have a copy of this report in your folder. And this is why I say our business is super hyper local, right? So as prices are up maybe 2 or 3%, like we showed in that first slide there, this is a look at a report. We do this report every quarter. This was done at the end of 22. And what it does is it compares 2022's numbers with 2021's numbers, right? So we cover about 182 towns in this report. Out of the 182 towns in Nassau and Suffolk County, 166 towns had positive appreciation year over year. And these are the top towns where prices increased the most. So again, 16 out of 182 towns where prices actually were less than they were in the previous year. So in our market, again, this is not the norm. These are the big winners. Our market has appreciated on average 5, 6, 7% year over year. And we're still seeing that happen. The trend is still there. What's going to happen next with respect to rates and all these things, Bruce is going to talk to you about that. But for right now, guys, it's still a very, very tricky market for a buyer to navigate. And it's so super important to affiliate yourselves with a mortgage company that can make your offer stand out, with the real estate company that can help put the two together. So we're here tonight to answer any of the questions that you have. Like I said, Bruce is going to talk to you guys about all the real important stuff getting started. But Bobby and I are here for you if you have any questions about specific towns or anything like that. I have my laptop here. I can pull it up and I have a lot of data that I can share with you. So I'm here for you. We appreciate you having us in today. And thank you so much. Bruce, I'm going to ask you to come up and get going. So thank
you. By show of hands, how many in the next 5 years hope to be a homeowner? That's all of you. Terrific. How about the next 3 years? Okay. How about when I'm finished with this seminar, everyone says tomorrow? Okay. All right. So my name is Bruce Silva. I'll go back to that quickly. Just Bruce Silva. And I do really welcome you. And I think this is about I think the 3rd or 4th seminar that I've done here, and we've done them with great success. I've done a number of Bobby and I successful transactions, right, Bobby? I would say, how many do you think we've done? 20, right? And so knowledge is power. So tonight, I want to give you as much knowledge as I can to equip you to someday become homeowners, okay? So who is CrossCountry Mortgage, right? We are a direct mortgage lender, not a broker, not a middleman, and not a bank, right? We're a direct mortgage lender. So from approving the loan to closing the loan to servicing the loan is all through my company. The difference between me and a Chase, a Citi, and a Wells is that you go to those places, you can get a mortgage, but you can get a CD, a money market, a car loan, an auto loan, a boat loan, and everything else. Think about their mortgage department, and that's what my company is. 9,000 people worth. One function, 1 to 4 family single, 1 to 4 family residential, and some commercial. That's what we do, okay? We're nationwide with brick and mortar in almost every state. We're licensed in every state. We've been voted 8 out of 12 last year's fastest growing mortgage company in America. In New York State, we are the largest lender, okay? We take a common sense approach to your underwriting. If it makes sense, we write the loan, right? Sometimes we got to tell a story with a loan. That's what we do. right? We'd go as quick as we can. And that's part of what we're going to talk about tonight. Getting your offers accepted, as Joe said, has a lot to do with who you're working with and how quickly we can get you to the finish line. Right? And I've got just about every product that if there's a product out there, we've got it. Okay. So goal today is educate. All right. I'm going to give you an education about some of the benefits of home ownership. Some are going to be obvious, some are maybe not so obvious. We're going to do some market talk, right? Identify some of the common misconceptions that we might have, like when you buy your first home. Like if you subscribe to, say, a Susie Orman, and she tells you that you've got to have 20% down, 0 debt, perfect FICO score, and another 100 grand in the bank before you're ready to buy. That's not a really good, listen, I take nothing away from her, but if that was true of Americans, we wouldn't have an America. We wouldn't have an economy. Okay. And then I'm going to explain some of the products and some of the do's and don'ts with regard to what you should be doing to equip yourself. Because sometimes early intervention is the best. You may think you're doing something right when you're actually doing something wrong. Okay. So we're going to start with a question. Here's the question. What if everything you believe to be true about your mortgage, your home equity, even your college and retirement planning wasn't true after all? When would you rather know about that, now or later? Of course, the answer would be collectively. When? There we go. We've got to, we're all talking now. That's the last time I'm going to have you interact, I think. It's really about a discussion. It's a discussion about creating wealth and eliminating debt through a properly structured mortgage plan. Now, just think and let that sink in for a second and look what that says. I am telling you that you can create wealth and eliminate your debt by getting into debt, because isn't a mortgage a debt? So it's a very counterintuitive thought, right? But that's because most people look at a mortgage as solely a debt. It's way more than a debt. It's a financial instrument. And if you learn to harness the power of what a mortgage can do for you to purchase a home, you will create wealth and you will get out of all the bad debt in your life, all that consumer debt, car loans and school loans and boat loans and all those things that are seemingly necessary. The only necessary debt you should have is that one right there. Okay, and we'll talk about why in just a little bit. So let's talk about some of the advantages of being a homeowner. Homeownership allows you what? To invest in an asset that's going to grow over time. Why do I say that? Anyone buy a car lately? Anyone ever buy a car? Okay, so what happens when you drive the car off the lot? Tell me. Depreciates in value. Okay, so if you take the last 100 years in America, we've experienced a 6% nationally, as Joe talks, a 6% appreciation rate of home ownership. Last 100 years. In Long Island, it's closer to 7. Last year in New York, it was 11.32 on average. Okay, he just showed you some of the numbers, which are crazy numbers. 25, 24, 23. Imagine if I had this seminar and you came to it 3 years ago. You'd all be thanking me, really thanking me. So 3 years from now, you can thank me. It's going to be able to let you provide a stable home for yourself where the landlord doesn't tell you, hey, I never told you could have a cat or a dog or whatever, or paint or do this or do that. This we're going to talk about quite a bit tonight, creating a great tax benefit and an opportunity to build wealth. And lastly, it's just the American dream, gaining the personal fulfillment of, hey, this is mine, something I worked for, right? Just like when you got your first car, you loved that first car. The new car smell was mine, my money. Okay, that's going to be on steroids when you buy a home. All right, let's talk about what a homeownership's impact would have on your net worth. Being a homeowner. Did you know that the median average American family has a net worth of $121,700? Median, right? Median American family. But of that net worth, 68% of it is in the form of home equity. Well, guess what? If you don't own a home, you can't have home equity. See, the fact of it is that a homeowner's net worth is actually 40 times greater than that of a renter. See, the average homeowner's net worth is not 121.7, it's 255. While the average renter's net worth is only 6,300. When you blend it, that's where you get the 121. Where would you rather be? Right? Time to get into the game. Anyone know who this is? Anyone know who that is?
Second most powerful man in Washington.
He is the second most powerful man in Washington. His name is Jerome Powell. Have you heard of the Fed before? Heard of the term the Fed? Okay. You're going to start listening when you start to buy a home. It's to CNBC in the mornings when you're ready to talk about your mortgage rates. Jerome Powell is the Fed Reserve chairman, right? Known as the second most powerful man in Washington. Why? Because every time he comes out onto the television and speaks, markets move big time. In fact, yesterday. So the Federal Reserve consists of 7 members who set monetary policy in America. They set interest rates, right? Called the Federal Open Market Committee. They meet every other month typically, right? And so what is the Fed doing? Have you noticed your food, your gas, going out to dinner? Have you noticed what's been happening in the last year and a half? Okay. Houston, we got a problem. What's the problem? Problem is one thing and one thing only. It's inflation. Okay. So what is inflation? Inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. See, I was born in the early 60s. But when I was let's say around 67, I was maybe it was about 69, I was 7 years old. And back then, my mom and dad used to let me walk to the candy store, and we had candy stores. And I could walk into a candy store with a dollar bill and come out with more candy than I could hold in my hand. Walk into a candy, if you could find one today, walk into a candy store today, what do you think you're going to buy? A piece of gum, maybe, right? And so that's what it is, right? That's inflation. The dollar doesn't buy what it used to buy, right? So the Fed has one main goal, which is to fight inflation in America. So the reason why interest rates have been going up is because inflation got out of control. The good news is it's going to get back in control. There's just going to be a little more pain before we get to that place, right? The target rate for inflation is 2%. Currently, we're standing at about 5+. It was 6+. Okay. And when it was 6+, that was the highest it had been since 1982. So we've really experienced 4 decades of single-digit low inflation, somewhere between 4 and 2%. And if you looked at and charted where interest rates have been for our whole careers, interest rates have been doing this the whole time we've been in the mortgage and real estate business. It's been a great run, right? And now we got this, okay? And this is not sustainable, right? 6+ inflation is not sustainable. And the only choice that the Fed has is to tighten rates, right? Make it harder to purchase things right now, right? And the Fed also buys paper. They buy mortgages after they issue the rates. So they're the ones who were buying a lot of the paper to keep rates low, falsely keeping rates low. And they stopped doing that too. So right now we got a little bit of a problem. There's a little bit of pain, but don't worry, pleasure is going to come soon. Okay. We may be headed for a recession. Okay. Recession by definition is 2 negative quarters in a row of gross domestic product, GDP, going negative or no growth at all, right? So we're close to that. But every month, they come out with a new set of numbers. And the new set of numbers is jobs, right? The unemployment number, the inflation numbers like the consumer price index, the producer price index, the price consumption expenditure. All of these things are the things that the markets are looking at to see if inflation is coming down with all these Fed increases. So everything that you've ever had to buy recently trickles into that. Okay. It's going to get better, I promise you. So why is it still a great time to buy if that's what I'm telling you? Why? Why is that good? Well, I want to show you why. Every blue bar is a year of inflation. Okay? So we had recession. So every blue bar is when we had a recession. Okay? So that was where the economy stalled. We had significant non-growth or negative growth in the economy. The white line by Case-Shiller is the National House Price Index. So what did prices do during recessions? All right, this stayed flat in the 60s, but look what happened in the 70s. It went up a bit. In 75, in 80, it went up. 82, it went up. 90 went up. 2000, it went up. This is the only time that home values dropped during a recession. And you want to know why that was? None of you probably remember this or even knew about it. Joe and Bobby would, and not probably that's it. You might, yeah, you might. You ever heard of the subprime mortgage crisis? You ever see The Big Short? Okay, so maybe you do know that. Matt knew. This is when people were getting mortgages for having a breath under their nose. You put a mirror there, you breathe, you've got a social security number, mortgage. And that's really what happened. And truthfully, for guys like me who had been in the business doing prudent lending for all those years, I was going broke because I was losing out to these silly, stupid mortgages that I refused to write. I was hitting my home equity just to survive. 4 kids and a wife. I'm like, man, I might have to get out of this business. And it lasted for a bit. And then home values were dropping and everything else. But look, here was our last recession, 2020. Look at the increase. And for all the reasons Joe's been talking about you about inventory, that's also why. But here's the next part of really why. Why it's still a good time to buy and why during a recession it's a great time to buy. Watch what happens to interest rates. Again, blue bars are the recessions, okay? This is the most recent one that we had in 2020. Rates were already low, 3 3/4. They dropped to 2 3/4 during that short period of time. They dropped in 28 to 2010 from 6% down to 4 7/8%, from 7 3/8 to 6 3/4, from 11 to 8 3/4, from 18 to 13, and from 16 to 11. This is when I got into the business, like 86, right? This is when I got into the business. Crazy. But for me, every time that this happened, you know what happened for me? I was able to refinance all my clients. Okay, so we'll talk more in just a second, but demand is going to stay strong because there's no supply. Millennials drive the market. Raise your hand if you're a millennial. Okay. So let's talk about housing forecasts. Oh, it's not a bad thing. I'm a boomer and I'm going to raise my hand for that. All right, what's the housing forecast look like? And this is going to be according to me, by the way. This is not gospel. I'm just going to tell you that these are not just, it's not just me, but it's what I believe. Okay. What's the spring market going to bring for us? Well, typically in the spring and summer markets, we do see more inventory come up to the market, right? Inventory is going to remain tight, but hopefully the worst is over. Like in 2021, Joe talked about 2020. He didn't go back to 2021. It was, you're talking about 40 people. There was 80 people lined up and giving 100 over asking price and still losing out on the bid. It was not, am I wrong? Yeah. Okay, so until rates drop again, and this is why you have a window of opportunity, that frenzy is there, but it's not to that degree. Okay, rates are going to rise, but I think only in the short term. Right, most of the pain that we've seen in rising interest rates, we've already experienced. In fact, keep an eye out. If you don't watch CNBC, next week watch CNBC and just see every time they talk about interest rates. Because next week, in fact, starting tomorrow is the JOLTS report, which is an unemployment number. And then next week is CPI, PPI, PCE. I think, and this is just my prediction, I think if the JOLTS number tomorrow shows weaker employment, I think what's going to follow suit is better inflation numbers next week, and we'll see rates come off of these highs that we're in right now. But this is your window of opportunity. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. You need to marry the home, and you need to date the mortgage. The home is forever. The mortgage is just here until rates come down. Okay, but if you wait till rates come down, you'll be back to that 2021 frenzy in line with Joe, with Bobby, waiting for your offer to be accepted. Home values are likely going to stay strong, right? And continue to rise, but probably at a slower pace than we've seen. You agree with that? Rents have increased by an average of 32% in New York State. Had anyone get their rent increase recently? No one. You did. There you go. You're going to be our first candidate. Okay, well, no, that's on average, but you know, All right, so that's and then they are starting to ease, by the way. They have started to ease from, and that's part of this, by the way. Part of why you're going to see better consumer price index numbers next week is because one of the factors that goes into the CPI is shelter costs. Shelter cost is your rent. That's been coming down since around December, but it's a lagger. It doesn't show, the numbers don't show up until right now. So keep an eye out. I'm telling you, it's going to be, you'll get ready for it. Interest rates in 2024 are predicted to drop significantly. That's by Fannie Mae. That's not by me. Somewhere between 4.75% and 5 something. Okay. Rates today are 6 3/4. Housing market's primarily driven by millennials born in 81 to 9. So now that you know what a millennial is, were you born between 81 and 96? Raise your hand. Same people?
Wait, there more back there?
Is there more? There's more back there. Yeah, no, you're not the only. No, there's definitely more back there. So the oldest millennials are turning 42 years old this year, right? They now surpass the baby boomers as the largest generation of home buyers. Why is that important? Okay, because millennials do things differently than baby boomers and Gen Xers, right? Just a little bit. One of the things that they do is they do things a little bit later in life. Now, I didn't get married till I was 30, so I'm not a typical baby boomer. But baby boomers, millennials typically were getting married in their mid to later 30s and then not having children right away in general, forming a family. And guess what happens after you form a family? Time to buy a house. So just think about what I'm telling you. If the oldest millennials are just turning 42, then that sweet spot between 35 and 42-year-old millennials who are forming families is your competition. They're not going away. And that's why home values are going to continue to rise, because it's the simple economics of high demand and low supply. And that supply is not getting any better for all the great things that Joe just showed you. No one's building anymore right now. Okay. Inflation's on the way down, as I told you. It peaked in September, October of 2022, right? And that's where it was over 6.5, right? And today it's just around 5.5 right now. Okay. Existing home inventory. It peaked in 2007 at 4 million homes. 2023, there's 980,000 homes on the market for inventory. Okay. But here's the real story about that. There may be 980,000 homes, but what you don't know is that in that statistic, the homes under contract are still considered as available homes. Almost more than 40% of the homes of the 980 are already in contract and technically off the market. That leaves you 578,000 homes to scramble for. Okay, so here's how the inventory has been going, right? So you could see that we bottomed out on inventory in 2022, but we're getting back there again. But here's what you need to know, though. The last time we had a real bottom, and who's going to ever predict when the bottom? Like, when do I buy the bottom of, like Joe said today, home values are coming down a bit. Are you going to try to wait till you find where the bottom of the home values are? Because if you were lucky enough to predict it back in, February of 2012, and you said, I'm going to buy a home, from February of 2012 till January of 2013, so just over a year, with the inventory at 2.4 million, homes appreciated 8%. Okay, 2.4 million homes appreciated 8%. What kind of appreciation you think you're going to get on 500,000 loans? 578. So this is why you need to buy now, because what you buy now is going to be worth a whole boatload of money more later. Mark my words. Mortgage rates, how they affect your purchasing power. Okay. If mortgage rates go up just 1%, it's going to take away almost 50,000 from what you could borrow. Show it to you in a different way. Let's say you have a $500,000 mortgage at 6.75% current rate. Mortgage payment 32.43. If it goes to 7.75%, which I'm praying it doesn't, that payment goes up to $35.82 or $339 more per month. Conversely, listen to me. If it goes down to 5.75% or even 4.75%, it's going to save you that or double that. So when I tell you to marry the house and date the mortgage, good stuff's coming. But if you wait, you'll be stuck. You'll be online with Bobby. The equivalent mortgage needs to come down from $500 to $446 to give you the same payment at $32.43. Okay. So have you heard of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and heard of those? We got to really educate you. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac is a conventional mortgage. Both are nicknames. Fannie Mae is the Federal National Mortgage Association, FNMA, nicknamed Fannie Mae. Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation, Freddie Mac. They do the same thing. They're quasi-government institutions set up to buy mortgages from homeowners and lenders, rather. So with the Fannie Freddie product, you can put down as little as 3% if you're a first-time home buyer. 5% down for all owner-occupied, for all other owner-occupied, if you weren't a first-time home buyer. If you put less than 20% down, it will require to pay PMI, which is temporary private mortgage insurance. You need a minimum of 620 FICO score with 5% down. And you can do a 1 to 4 family home. You can do a co-op or a condo. This is for a different market, seller concessions. Be a tough one for you to swallow right now to get a seller to help you with your closing costs, but that's what a seller concession is. Probably not a good market for that, right, Bobby? Right. The loan limits raise every year based upon home values. So Fannie Mae has just raised their loan amount from $647.2 to $726.2. So as a first-time home buyer with 3% down, you could borrow up to almost $750,000, right? And then we're in a high cost area, so you can actually go up to $1 million with 5% down. Crazy. I'm not telling you to do that, by the way. Just you need to get in the game. Get something. Buy a co-op, buy a condo, buy a small house. Doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal, right? You want to get in the game because then you're going to start to make money and you're going to parlay that to the next one. So let's talk about mortgage payments versus rental payments. Mortgage payments are usually higher than rental payments, right? But that gap is it's closing because rents are going up just as high, if not higher, than mortgage rates. Okay. The payment on a mortgage consists of principal and interest. Principal is what you borrowed. You're paying back principal every time you make a mortgage payment. So it's forcing you to put savings into your home. You're building equity in your home every time you make a payment. The mortgage interest is typically going to be 100% tax deductible as long as you borrow less than $750,000, which will probably be all of you. Right? Investing in a mortgage means leveraging your money in just about the only appreciable asset what we just talked about. Put a car loan on it, on a car, you drive it off the lot, you lost money. Rents are at the highest levels in history, right? And none of it comes back to you, right? If you paid $3,000 in rent, does the landlord say, well, what's your name? Stephanie, you know what? You've been a great tenant. Here's $500 back every time you give me $3. Ain't gonna happen. Right? Rent payments give you a 0% return on your money. So owning instead of renting has its advantages, right? We're going to show you how to put little to zero down. By the way, any veterans in the room? Okay, maybe there's one online. Veterans have the best opportunity for home ownership than anybody. A VA loan requires a 0 down payment and 0 PMI. Incredible. So if you're not a veteran and you know someone who is, you need to tell them about me. Here's a sample of rental payments. Now, if you're lucky enough to be paying $1,200 a month, God bless you. But most rents fall in here. At least if you're going to do a single family home. Okay. So home ownership is really an investment in your future, not your landlord's, right? Your property is likely going to, as I've been telling you, increase over time. You get to design the house the way you want it. You want to paint that wall pink or green or Stephanie, but whatever color you like, it's yours, it's your home, right? Remodeling very well will increase the value of your home. Fixed rate mortgages are probably the way to go because it guarantees the payment is never going to change. Each payment builds equity because, as I showed you, you're going to pay down principal, right? And homeownership will provide you with tax breaks more than likely, right? And then you get the sense of security and comfort that you always wanted as a homeowner. Obviously, I'm not a tax guy, but I do play one on television. So stop investing in your landlord's future. Invest in your own. Your landlord loves you. You know why? Here's why. Let's say you were paying $3,500 a month in rent for the next 7 years because you thought that that's what I got to do. I want to buy a home for me, my family, my wife, my husband, whatever. For the next 84 months, 7 years, that's $294,000 out of your pocket that went nowhere but to the landlord's pocket, right? So let's take a hypothetical purchase. Joe just talked about a home, coincidentally, for $525 in Northport. Great town, close to here. Let's say you put down a down payment of 5%, which is $26,250. Mortgage amount is $498,750. Closing costs are going to run you, give or take, $22,000, right? Your total out of pocket, 22 and 26, $48,250. You got to pay for an attorney. Maybe you have some moving costs. Let's say your total cost to buy over $500,000 home is 50 grand. With me? Okay. That mortgage at these crazy rates, 32, 35. Let's assume taxes are 12 grand a year, another $1,000 for property taxes. Homeowners insurance, you got to make sure the house, God forbid, in a fire is replaced. And then private mortgage insurance, which is temporary and will go away once you've got the other 15% equity. Total payment, $45.25, again, assuming a 6 3/4 rate, good FICO score. But see, that payment sucks, but at the very least, that payment comes with tax deductions. So I took the liberty of doing the math for you already. For the purpose of this discussion, everybody's in a 33% tax bracket. So the annual interest that you would pay at that 6 3/4 for that $498 mortgage is $35,503. The property taxes are 12, so the total is $45,503. But we've got something called a SALT tax cap. SALT is state and local taxes. Here in New York, we're capped at $10,000 total SALT tax. So you can't take the whole 12, you can take 10. So it's not 45.5, it's 43.5. You with me? You with me? Good. If you're in a 33% tax bracket, I'm going to take 33% of this number and divide it by 12 to give you a monthly concept of what this is. It's $1,196. Okay. So every time you make that payment of $4,500, you're getting back $1,196. Let's compare it. If you pay rent and paid $3,500 a month, zero tax benefit, right? That's how I would feel. If you own that same house, yes, your payment's $1,000 more, but every time you make that payment, you get that back. Effectively, the payment's cheaper than rent, right? Don't forget the fact that you own it and it's going to appreciate. And here's the other part about the forced savings, and just to show you, right? You lay out $4,500, you get almost $1,200 back as a tax deduction, and $442 of that payment is going back in your pocket, but in the form of equity. It doesn't go in your liquid pocket, it goes into your house's equity, right? So if you think about that, right? This is getting a lot closer to three grand. It's under 3 grand rather to own. So you say, well, you're welcome. All right. Here's what that home might look like. I'm going to give you lower than what Joe predicted, lower than I'm predicting, lower what the market's been doing, right? Let's say that 525 house has a banner year this year, which it should be, but only goes up by 5%. And then for the next 8 years, only goes up by 4%. By the way, do you know that we had 121 consecutive months of positive appreciation in real estate? And it's been only the last 4 that we've declined a little bit. But that's off the peak of 121 straight. Nothing goes always in one straight line, right? So you're going to get a little bit of that ebb and flow. But trust me when I tell you, because of all the things I've been laying out, this home is going to be worth a ton more. You couldn't have told me 20 years ago that $1 million home bought what it buys today. Couldn't have told me that. Of course.
You have a house, you know, this at 8 sold 3 years ago. We're asking $699, paid $695. I think the house just listed it for $899.
Yep.
Multiple ones for $970.
Crazy.
There's
Joe,
I'm looking at this.
you backed it up 100%. Okay. So this 525 home in year 9 is going to be worth 754, probably more. Don't scoff at it. I'm telling you, that's what'll happen. Now, I took the liberty again of doing the math for you. So when you make a mortgage payment, right? This is the annual, that 4,500 is annually 38 grand, right? But you're paying back this much principal, which goes into your pocket in home equity, and you're writing off 33.5 in interest. So the balance goes down from 498 to 493, and then so on and so forth for the next 9 years. So in 9 years' time, that's what you owe on the house. The total equity you accumulate after 9 years is a mortgage of 435 balance, a value of 754, a $319,000 return on your money. How long does it take you to save that much after tax dollars? See, this is the investment, 50 grand. That's the return, which is 630% of your 50. So let's say you decide to wait. Say, well, what if I just take 50 grand and I put it in the market? By the way, do this for yourself. Don't trust me. Go on investor.gov. You pull it up if you want, write it down, investor.gov. You're going to see the compound interest calculator. This is where I got this from. Okay. You start with 50 grand. I just showed you that your rent is going to be $1,000 more than your mortgage. The other way around, your mortgage will be $1,000 more than your rent. So just say that you started with 50. So we're going to compare apples to apples. And you took an extra $1,000 and added to the 50 for the same 9 years' time. But the interest rate you returned was 9%, way better than the 6 3/4 you're paying, which is going to turn into probably 4 3/4 one day. The return on that money is $264,847. Not bad, but you're still a renter. You haven't tax deducted 1 penny from your income. So which would you rather have? 264.8 or the 319 you get from owning a home? Right? Same outlay, different result. Does that make sense? Makes a lot of sense, right? Homeownership's impact on net worth recap. If you purchase with a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, that housing expense is locked in. Sure, your taxes and insurance may change a little bit, but for the most part, the only thing you're going to do is maybe reduce your payment because interest rates are going to get better someday, right? So for the most part, you're guaranteed that the mortgage payment is going to be the same, but guaranteed for 30 years, if you rented, you're going to be paying more rent. You just did it this year. Good, because you're going to buy a home. So as an owner, the mortgage payment is a forced savings, as I told you before, right? It allows you to build equity in your home that you tap into later. As a renter, you're guaranteed that the equity is not yours, it's your landlord's. Either way, you're paying a mortgage, just whether you're paying your own or you're paying your landlord's. So what should you do? You got to make sure that the very least you do is get pre-approved before you purchase a home, as Joe alluded to before. But there might be something better to do in this market, especially. See, a pre-approval is going to tell you some things. It's going to tell you if you're ready to purchase now, because you may come to me and I may say to you, listen, you're just not ready. You got to build a little bit more credit, maybe save a little bit more money, maybe get a cosigner. But hopefully that's not the case. You're all got good jobs here. God willing, you're all ready when you're ready. It'll tell you how much you qualify for pre-approval, how much money you're going to need to buy it, what the monthly payment's going to look like, any repair for your credit's going to be. You got to know your numbers, right? Remember what Joe just talked about. Average listing is only days on the market. Isn't it funny how we coincide? We didn't even look at each other's screens. Yeah. So really, a pre-qualification is something you can get online. You never want to do that. A pre-approval is what most people are accustomed to. Even realtors are accustomed to a pre-approval, right? Because you're going to send me documents. I'm going to run your credit. I get all that. But a pre-commitment, right, is a fully underwritten credit approval from my underwriters. That says, hey, you are already got the mortgage. Just find a home that fits the parameters of what we just approved you for. Okay. So I've got you in your book, in your booklets there is the credit. There's a flyer on the pre-commitment. Okay. So it's called a fast track to give you the edge, right? Fully approved, ready to go. You go to your seller with Bobby and you say, hey, I got good news. I can buy this house for this amount of dollars and I can close in 21 days because I have nothing to sell and I've been fast track credit approved. That's how you do it in this market, right? 21 days. That's what the certificate is going to look like. We just actually revamping. It's going to look a lot better than this even. But what I usually do is I get on the phone with the listing agent. I tell them what it actually is. Because again, Bobby, not too many people do fast track, right? Most people are doing pre-approvals. This is your edge, as Joe was talking about before. This is the edge you need. That's right. That's right. 100%. All right. So this program may be of some interest. It's for first-time homebuyers. It's from the state of New York. So Sony May is an acronym, mortgage agency. What constitutes a first-time home buyer is that you cannot have owned a home in the past 3 years. So you're saying, Bruce, that if I owned a home 4 years ago and sold it, I'm still eligible? Yes. Can't have owned a home in the last 3 years, okay? Minimum down payment is 3%, okay? 3% is a forgivable grant over the next 10 years. So we want to know what happens. It's a grant program. So New York State says, okay, you got to put down 3%. So let's say it's a $500,000 home. You got to put down 15 grand and New York State's going to give you back 3%, 15 grand to be applied towards your closing costs. Okay, so good. Yes. You can be anywhere in New York State, anywhere in New York State. Okay. By the way, this 3% is capped at 15. So if you bought a $600,000 home, put down 3%, which is 18 grand, you're still only getting 15 from the state. But every year for 10 years, whatever they gave you in a grant, they forgive it. You don't have to pay it back. Matt is passing out the flyer on that. They are a little stricter on the underwriting guidelines. Takes a little longer to get. There is income and sale price limits. I think the sale price limit is like over 800 grand and the income limit's about one. Thank you. You know about the program, 139. They just recently changed that. So that's went up to 130. That's the achieving the dream, not the low interest. Yeah. Typically lower interest rates in these rising markets, right? They do lock it in up front for 120 days, which is kind of good. You don't have to worry about market fluctuations. But once it's locked, it is locked. So if rates come down, it's not always the best thing. But let's just say we did do that, right? Let's say we locked you into this loan and all of a sudden rates dramatically turned and I can get you a conventional rate for lower than a Sony May. I can get you out of that one. I can get you out of it before you close. There's a max sale price in the Long Island area. Current interest rate right now without the grant is 5 7/8. If you do the grant, they bump it to 6 1/4, still below the market. Home Ready is another first-time home buyer product, right? Again, have to be first-time home buyer. What they'll do is they'll give you a little bit better interest rate, not as low as Sony May, right? basically the PMI is a little bit cheaper. The Fannie Mae adjustments are cheaper, so it's pretty good. It goes up to 97%, right? And they definitely will expand their underwriting better than Sony Mae. So it might be a good alternative to Sony Mae if you don't quite qualify for the Sony Mae, right? Income limit to do this one is 90,000 though. Hopefully nobody in the room needs this, but I want you to know about it anyway, because it's in my slides. Non-QM, all those other products I talked about is what's known in the industry as a qualified mortgage, QM, qualified mortgage. So a non-QM is the stuff that falls outside that box. 1099 program. So let's just say you had someone who is commission-based getting a 1099. You know what most people do when they get 1099? They try not to pay any taxes. So when they go file their taxes, they write off everything. So they might have grossed 100 and the tax return shows, okay, there's the gross, but I wrote off everything. And now you made 33 and now you don't qualify. This program lets you use just the 1099. And all these other ones are just, I'm not going to get into right now. I don't think this really applies to most of you, but it is a product that, again, like I told you before, there's not a product we don't have. Okay. But sometimes finding the right house is kind of like that maze there. So this is my plug to these people here. Choosing the right realtor is your key. Bobby been in the business as long as I didn't realize we were in the same year, got in the same year. And Bobby works with a team. She's got an amazing company behind her, as Joe shared with you. I mean, they sell 33% of their own listings. So she's got a tremendous network within Signature Premier Properties to be able to help you find a home and maybe get the home before someone else does. Okay, so don't think that if you check out Zillow or For Sale by Owner, you're going to walk the streets and you're not going to walk into that. You're going to inherit a realtor, and that's way worse than having Bobby. Way worse. Okay, Bobby is she's I used to say she's the man, but she's the woman. She's awesome. Here's the steps in the home buying process, right? You got to get a Bobby. You got to get a Bruce, right? So find an agent, find a lender. You're not obligated, by the way, but we just hope for sure that you see the benefit, right? Get that pre-approval, or better yet, the fast track. Make the offer, assuming the offer is accepted. You got to get a home inspection. We can give you people for that. You got to hire an attorney. We can give you people for that. Sign a contract of sale, apply for your mortgage. The mortgage requirements are typically like the four legs of a table. We're going to look for your income, your assets, your credit, and the appraisal on the house as the four main components to getting you approved. Mortgage process looks like this. Start with that contract of sale. We do the application, which is, again, if you're fast tracked, you've already done that. Do an appraisal on the property. Process the loan for any further commitments that we needed to do, conditions. Underwriting decision, if your fast track was already made, they're just going to relook at it to, look at the property and the appraisal. Okay. Get that approval, secure the home insurance. Boom. You're a homeowner. Credit, the single most important piece of the process. Why? See, credit will definitely affect the interest rate that you get on your mortgage, but maybe you didn't know. It also affects how much you qualify for. The higher your FICO scores, the more leniency you get. PMI, private mortgage insurance, costs less with higher FICO scores. Even your car loans or leases cost more when you've got lower credit. You may know that. Maybe hopefully you all have great credit. Even when you get insurance, whether it's health insurance, homeowners insurance, car insurance, all cost more with lower FICO scores. And then even your job. Everyone has a job here. Credit. Credit is an analyzer. Credit analyzes your ability and your willingness to pay back your debt. Credit report reveals your current financial obligations. When we pull your credit, it's like, holy crap, that's like everything I've ever owned. Late payments are going to show up. Unusual circumstances. Bill Smith Jr., Bill Smith who's not related to Bill and Bill Smith Jr. All on one report. That happens. Just an unusual circumstance. We can fix that. Bankruptcy is going to show up on your credit report. Judgments, liens, charge-offs, collections show up on your credit report. And then, of course, FICO scores. Everyone's heard of a FICO score, right? And you know you can go get online and talk to your credit company or Credit Karma or whatever and get a FICO score, but I call them FACO scores. They're not real scores. See, the scores that you're going to get for mortgage purposes are different than the consumer credit reports scores. Scores only go up to 850 in the mortgage world. See, on the consumer side, you can get them up to 1,000 points. So you could be skewed and think you're having a different score than you have. Excellent is here, very good, good, fair, poor, and very bad, right? But what does a FICO score do? It's a predictor. It's predicting statistically the chance of you becoming 90 days late on any of your debts. That's what it does. It predicts how likely are you to default 90 days on your debt. Why does anyone care about 90 days? Because in the mortgage world, when you're 90 days late, they start the foreclosure proceedings. That's why. Each score is specific for each bureau. Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax each give us a different score. We take the middle score. Two borrowers, we take the lower of the two middle scores. Scores range from 300 to 850. Okay, I've never seen an 850. I've never seen a perfect score. Thousands and thousands of reports. I have never seen an 850 FICO score. And I've never did a mortgage for a 300. Don't be a 300. Higher the score, the less the odds are that you're going to default, right? Scores are generated and analyzing your information that are contained in your report at that moment in time. In other words, I'm going to take a picture of your credit that day, whether you paid off your credit card every month or not, it's going to be that day. Like if you're like me, like I got family on the West Coast, what do? I use my credit cards all throughout the month, whether it's gas, food, what you're eating tonight, whatever I can do on credit card, I do. Why do I do that? Air miles. But I never pay interest. I reconcile at the end of the month. If you look at my credit report and I took a snapshot in the beginning of the month versus the end of the month, my score would have dropped at the end of the month because I have more usage of my credit. Okay, don't worry if that happens. We can always rerun and repull. Maintaining good credit is the key to your financial success for all those reasons I showed you before, right? Here's what the odds look like. If you have a score above 800, statistically, only 1 out of 1,485 people run the risk of being 90 days late. And then you can see as it goes down. So look what happens if you're below a 620. 1 in 15 people statistically are going to be severely late on their mortgage. That's why these are all adjusted according to risk. Here's the 5 things that count. Your payment history, albeit very important, is only 35% of your overall FICO score. So you can say, well, how come my score is so low? I pay everything on time. Right. But here's the part that most people miss. The amount that you owe in relation to the amount that you have available is a percentage, your usage. You want your usage to be 30% of your limit. So if you got $1,000 limit on your credit card, $300 max. Got it? Okay. The types of credit you use account for 10% of your FICO score. A mortgage counts higher than a car loan higher than a major credit card higher than a minor credit card. So if you're going to try to boost your FICO score getting a Sears card and a Macy's card, that ain't going to really do it. Right? New credit can boost your FICO score, but only by maybe 10%. And the length of time that you've had credit, well, that accounts for 15% of your FICO score. So the longer you've owned credit, the better. Now, here's one of those, well, I'll tell you in a minute about the do's and don'ts. But one of the things that you don't want to do is don't cancel anything. You might have a very seasoned credit card. You say, well, hey, I'm going to cancel this thing. I never use it. I don't want Bruce to use it against me as available credit. We don't do that. Don't touch your credit till you talk to us, please. Okay. Let's say your FICO score was low. We've got something called a wayfinder. It's a credit expert. We find a way to help boost the FICO score without you having to pay for it. Okay. It's just going to, we'll tell it to you, right? It's just going to say, okay, there's a few actions you have to take to boost that FICO score. Here's some do's and don'ts. What I would suggest when I finish the do's and don'ts, take out your phone and take a picture of it so you don't forget to do the do's and don't do the don'ts. Did I say that right? Here's a do, right? Do get approved or fast-tracked, right? Be honest on your application. I'm going to figure it out anyway. If you tell me you were never married before and you have a child support, I'm going to find out. Continue to pay the mortgage or rent or loans on time. It's easy to do when you get excited. A lot of people, they're going to get married, they're going to have their first baby, they're just excited, we're going to buy a house, and they forget the littlest thing. Do you know the higher your FICO score is, the bigger the impact is when you go late? You could drop a FICO score by 90 to 100 points by being late on a Macy's card. You're 790, you're going to 690. But if you were only 650, you might only go to 640. Crazy. Keep your current job, right? Keep your current job and income. Contact us right away if anything changes. Have your important documents handy, especially your W-2s, tax returns, and pay stubs. Here's a don't. Don't make any major purchases. Hey, honey, I know we're about to buy the house. We're closing next week. And Fortune Office has a great outdoor sale and no payments until 2025. Guess what I'm going to do? Right before you close, we do a soft pull of your credit to make sure you didn't do that. If we see a new inquiry, you might have just shot yourself in the foot. Don't buy furniture. Get mom and dad to do it, okay? Don't apply for new credit during this process, right? Don't co-sign. Don't make large deposits in your bank account. I got to follow money. The biggest money laundering schemes in America happen through mortgages. That's why they look at every deposit, right? Don't spend your down payment money or your closing cost money. Don't plan a vacation. Oh, hold on. Take that picture seriously. I got one more don't. I mean, they sound practical, but you know what? We're good. Here's just a little bit more. Again, until we meet, I'm going to tell you what you should do. I just told you I pay my credit card in full every month. Okay, but if you're trying to buy a home and saving for a home, maybe the best thing isn't paying it in full, but pay the minimum until I tell you you've got enough money. Then you can go pay it in full again, okay? Keep a paper trail of all the funds moving in and out of your bank accounts. We're going to look for that. Notify us if anything changes to your finances or travel plans, and don't cancel any credit cards. Remember I told you about that usage. Do not cancel a credit card. Don't take any cash advances. Sometimes you get those things in the mail. Sign here, $5 grand, 0% interest, and then you look at the fine print, 24% interest, and that's borrowed money. You can't borrow money from me. Don't co-sign a loan for anyone else. Don't take any new debt, and that was a similar one before. And don't quit your job, right? There you go. Yeah, those are real. Okay, so on your table is a $500 off your closing costs coupon. I'm trying to work diligently with HR to increase that number, but right now you got coupon. Hold on to it. If you lose it, don't worry, I'm going to still honor it, but hold on to your coupon, right? It's something, okay? And this is the marry the home, date the mortgage thing. You buy now, refinance later. I'm going to give you a $1,500 credit towards the refinance when you refinance. How about that? And I'm trying to make that bigger. Okay. Now that I know what I need to know, what do I need to do? Here's what you should also take a picture of, because these are the things I'm going to be looking for from you. Okay. In your packet is Personal Homebuyer's Guide, stapled, it's a bunch of pages. Don't throw these out. Matt did a lot of work putting this together. Okay. Go green, go digital, go simple. If you hit that QR code with your phone, you'll be able to pull up my information, Matt, or is that the All About You? Okay. Do me a favor. Pull this up. This is really cool. Pull this up. This form is called All About You. I want to get to know you better. I want it to be more than, hey, I'm doing your mortgage. It's a transaction. This is way more than a transaction. This becomes personal. I become very tight friends with a lot of people I do mortgages with, especially because we're going to do it once, twice. I'm going to do your sister, your brother, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, because you're going to love me. And this helps me to really identify what your likes and dislikes are. So if I want to give you a gift at closing, I know what kind of candy bar you like. I know what kind of movie tickets I should buy you. Pretty cool, right? Do that. Fill that out for me. Okay. This is my team. Matt is the only one. No, Matt and Nick showed up, right? Matt and Nick showed up. Boy, Nick, you look like your picture. I look a little younger than I know. Joe's my team lead. He's not here tonight. Matt is my guy who does everything you see, all the digital, all my marketing. He does that. And Vinny is sick today too. But this is my team. So when you talk to me, you talk to them, you talk to me, you talk to them. Okay. This is how you can contact me, and I can contact you too. But there's plenty of places to find my number. Okay. Okay. So that concludes. Yeah, it's fine. Thank you, online people. I appreciate that. Hopefully you'll reach out to me when you're ready, me and Bobby. Okay, this was fun. Appreciate it. You're welcome. Okay.